Do you feel intimidated when you think about using alcohol inks? Well, don't worry, because I have 3 techniques that are so simple and will help give you the confidence you need to start using them. And many of you have been asking about alcohol lift ink, so I'm going to show you a few ways that you can use it and give you some tips to get the best results. So let's get started. For this first technique, I'm going to be using some cotton balls. You're going to take a few of your favorite colors, add them directly to the cotton ball, and I like to give each color their own cotton ball. You can add a little bit of isopropyl alcohol to the cotton balls if you feel that you need a little bit more movement, but then you're going to start pouncing the cotton balls with the alcohol ink onto synthetic paper. I like to use either Yupo or craft plastic. If you want to make the colors more vibrant and add more depth to the background, you can go back in and add another layer of alcohol ink. Keep in mind that even though the bottom layer of alcohol ink is dry, it is going to react to the new alcohol ink that you are putting on top of it, and you will get a blend of colors. And just like that, you've made an alcohol ink background with no effort at all. And you won't want to miss how I take this background to the next level with alcohol lifting, so stick with me. For this next technique, we're going to be using those same cotton balls, but instead of randomly pouncing them on the background, we are going to be swiping them, alternating the colors. The colors I'm using today are Monsoon, Boysenberry, and Wild Plum. I really want to encourage you to use what you have on hand, but if you are wanting the colors that I'm using, I have them linked in the description box. Just like the previous background, I want the colors a little bit more vibrant, so I'm going to add another layer of alcohol ink right on top. You're not going to get a lot of depth in this background, but you can add more interest by overlapping the colors a little bit, and you're going to get a few new colors and a nice blend. And just like that, you have another background done. For this next technique, we are going to be adding the alcohol ink directly to a non-porous surface. I'm using a Glassboard studio mat. If you don't have a glass mat, you can use some saran wrap and just place it on your work surface, smooth it out the best you can, and add your alcohol inks directly on top. And now we're going to add a little bit of isopropyl alcohol to help move the colors around. I'm going to take a piece of Yupo paper and smush it right into that alcohol ink. I slightly move my fingers on top so that the colors blend together, but not too much because I do want a little bit of white space. I didn't want that big blob in the center, so I'm trying to tilt it back and forth to see if I can get it moving around. I wanted the edge to blend out, so I added a little bit of isopropyl alcohol. Now I'm taking the Holtz blower tool to move around the color. And now you have another background, but stick with me because I'm going to show you how to use the alcohol lift ink, and I'm going to take that last background and turn it into a card later on in this video. You're going to take a alcohol ink background that we created earlier, a stamp of your choice. This one is from the new stamp set from Holtz from the Botanic Collage stamp set. You're going to ink up the stamp with alcohol lift ink, and I like to use my MISTI along with my Stampendable tool so that I can make sure that I get a nice impression and lift all of that ink up. I will show you how to get that stamped image to stand out a little bit more, but first I'm going to take that ink that's on that stamp and stamp it onto another piece of Yupo paper. I'm using my Stampendable tool again to make sure that I get a nice crisp image. I love this technique because it's almost like a 2-for-1. You get the nice alcohol lift inked background and also a nice stamped image. All right, now we're going to take a paper towel and lift up that alcohol lift ink. And each time you lift up the ink, you need to make sure that you are moving to a clean piece of paper towel. This is going to help prevent adding the color that you're lifting up in areas that you don't want it. Now you can take the paper towel and swipe it over top of the image. This is going to get that last little bit of ink up, and you're left with a really cool background. But stamping isn't the only thing you can do with the alcohol lift ink. I'm going to put a piece of the Holtz media grip down onto my glass mat. This is going to help keep that background in place. And for this technique, you're going to need the alcohol lift ink reinker. And I'm going to actually tape my stencil down. This is going to keep the stencil in place. Then I'm going to take a finger dauber and tap it into the reinker, and then I'm going to lightly tap it on top of the stencil, and this is going to add the alcohol lift ink in all of the areas that you can see. Once you get all the ink where you want, you're going to leave the stencil in place and grab a paper towel and dab it on top. You want to make sure that you're pressing firmly, but you're not moving that paper towel around on the background. And it's also important to keep switching to a clean paper towel. Once you get most of the alcohol lift ink up, you can take the stencil off and rub off all of the excess. And you're left with a really beautiful background. And you're able to get more use out of all of those stencils you might have. I don't know about you, but I love adding texture with things around my house. So I'm taking some bubble wrap, adding the alcohol lift ink, lifting up some of that ink, and I'm going to add it to one of the card panels that I created earlier. Using bubble wrap is such a unique way to add texture to any project. We are not done yet because I am going to take my favorite stamp from the whole release and create a card with it. I'm going to be taking the alcohol lift ink, inking up the stamp, stamping it onto that smushed background we created earlier, and it's going to lift up some of that ink. Now I'm going to stamp the image on a new piece of Yupo paper. All right, you know what time it is. It's splatter time. I cannot create a card or project without adding splatters. So I'm taking a paintbrush that I only use for alcohol inks and adding the splatters. I don't want to add too many splatters on top of the main floral image, so I covered it up a little bit. I wanted this card to have a little bit of dimension, so I'm popping up this card panel with some foam tape. I'm going to adhere it to another card panel that I embossed with a embossing folder. Now I'm going to add this sentiment that I embossed with some gold embossing powder, and my card is complete. I really hope this video has inspired you to break out your alcohol inks and start using them. And you are not going to want to miss this short playlist where I help you take your alcohol inks to the next level. I'll see you there.